Thank you guys for joining me here on our last segment of today's show. And I know this piece of news is really from Tuesday, but because of the break and the holiday schedule now, we didn't get a chance to talk about it. And this was a huge, kind of breaking news, portion of, the NFL that I didn't think we were ever going to see, especially at this point where there's like 2 to 3 games left. I never thought I would see, on my phone that the Falcons have named Michael Penix Jr. the starting quarterback, especially after a win. And as you guys see on your screen, right, have the Falcons made this change too early? It's hard to say. In all honesty, at least for me, because like I said, for the Falcons and the long term plan of it all, right, where you signed Kirk Cousins to a massive deal, that's obviously going to be a big talking point, right? His contract and the fact that he might not be playing going forward for the Falcons and things like that is obviously a problem because you gave him a lot of money, but also in terms of drafting the quarterback and the idea that in the moment when they drafted Michael Penix Jr., I thought that it was very unnecessary. Like, I didn't think the Falcons would ever sign Kirk and bring in Michael Penix, right? I thought at that spot they could have got so many guys that I felt could have helped them a lot more this season. But now looking back on it now in hindsight, right, it looks like a great move because if they had no other option other than Kirk, their season would really be not looking great. It would be looking like it was in danger, right? Because you wouldn't have a confident backup quarterback that you could just go to. Right now, you have the quarterback that made it to last year's national championship game and had a phenomenal career in Washington and really just in college as well. So, yes, back then I thought it was a bad move, but now it obviously looks great. But still, the question really is for me, have they made it too early? Because I thought the plan was to go a year, maybe even two, with Kirk as your starter. And now obviously things change, and nobody would have thought Kirk would have had a 5 game stretch where he threw 9 interceptions and only one passing touchdown. That obviously is a huge red flag, right? So that obviously is something that needs to change. That situation was a subject to change just in a moment's notice like that. But I don't know. I feel like it's kind of an oxymoron to say too early, but also late in this season because it is early in terms of the grand scheme of things, but in terms of this year, it's pretty late because I thought, bringing him in for a situation like right now, the Falcons, this is like do or die for them. This is a situation where um like you need to win these games to make the playoffs, right? And it's in a way where you need to win these games, and not only that, but you need to make sure he plays well because I don't like any situation where the quarterback comes in and like kind of like Drake May for example, right? You know the team's not going to be great, so you can absorb some of the bad performances where it's a development year, there's no real expectation, so it doesn't really matter in a way. But with Michael Penix, right, if he goes out there in a game where you need to win, you're playing the Giants this week and you need to go out there and win, and let's say he doesn't play great, then it's a different situation because the Falcons need to win these games. So there's a lot more pressure obviously on Michael Penix to not only win the game, but win the last remaining games to give him a chance to make the playoffs. And also, if things don't go great, well, do you go back to Kirk then? Knowing that, he hasn't really shown you much, but you need to win. So do you bench the rookie because of the urge to and the necessity to win now? You need to win like this upcoming week. And if you feel like it's going wrong, how early do you make that decision? How early do you make that estimation on whether or not, Michael's maybe not ready? Let's go back to Kirk. And then switching on and off like that, I think really brings me the most worry with this situation. And, the timing of it all is a bit weird. But I can't really blame the Falcons in the same way because, and also Raheem Morris, right? If you want to bring him into it specifically, because he's a first year head coach, right? He got another opportunity here with the Falcons to actually be their official head coach, and you don't like to put it in this perspective, but he's kind of playing for his job a little bit because if the Falcons, from where they were at 6-3, I believe, in a good spot because they had defeated the Buccaneers twice already, and they were in first place, and the Buccaneers were dealing with all those injuries, right? For you to kind of collapse like this, and not only collapse, but not even make the playoffs, that's obviously a recipe for the head coach to be fired, unfortunately. So you got to think about it a little bit with Raheem. Like, does he make this change also? I don't like saying it, but kind of like to save his job a little bit, because you know that if you bring in Michael Penix and let's say he hits it out of the park, he plays great, then, and if he gives you a real fighting chance, then you kind of extend your stay a little bit, right? With the fact that you made this bold decision, it looks great now, and now going forward, there's a lot more optimism, right, surrounding this whole thing. It was rather the quarterback, not really this whole situation. So you got to bring that into perspective, but also, again, the fact that, like I said, you can't really blame the Falcons because Kirk was just not playing great. And the fact that he got the win against the Raiders and still they benched him, I think shows you everything that you need to know about this situation. That, despite the win, Kirk only had 112 yards. He threw a touchdown and also one interception that looked pretty bad in live form. So the fact that they only won like 15-9 also wasn't very encouraging. So, the win was great, but it took a lot, I'm sure, for them to make this decision, and especially from sources and reports coming around the situation, things like that, where they were saying that Kirk was their guy, and even Raheem Morris saying that Kirk was their quarterback just after the Minnesota loss. He still backed Kirk Cousins, and then after this week, all of a sudden, they make a change like that. They must have really felt that pressure, and the fact that Kirk really wasn't playing great is something worrying, obviously, because of the contract and everything like that. But despite the win, they made this change, and I think that said a lot as well. But with that being the case, and now, you have Michael Penix Jr. coming in here now, playing the Giants, shouldn't be too awful, right, obviously, but, you just never know, right, with the fact that they got to win this game, and everyone also, I'm sure, is expecting the Falcons to immediately just look completely different, and I'd also like to kind of extend a warning to not expect them to just put up like 40 or 30 points now all of a sudden, right? Like Kirk was playing like hot garbage or anything like that. Kirk was doing an all right job. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch considering the 9 interceptions and everything like that, but for the first part of the year, he was playing very well, and then just something happened to kind of make that switch, and then it just really nosedived. But I just like to kind of give it a bit of a warning, like, if Michael Penix Jr. comes in and is struggling a little bit, it shouldn't just be like, all right, like, he sucks, like, bring Kirk back. It can be that way as well. Also, the fact that, leading up into this decision also, where the coaches and people around Michael Penix Jr. and this whole situation have said that he's looked pretty well in practice, that he's been throwing the heck out of the football as well, does give you more confidence. So that should be something that they could build on at least, and, go into this game with a nice game plan, at least to kind of get his feet wet a little bit and make him feel comfortable, because I think we're going to tell right away whether or not the moment is a little bit too big for him or if he's actually feeling pretty well in there, right? Because the first couple snaps and the first drives are always usually scripted, so I expect him to kind of start off pretty well, hopefully, ideally, and then from then on, we could really see him, develop into something more as the game goes on. But if there was ever a time for a switch, oddly enough, it would be these two games, like I said, or the next 3 games, excuse me, because you play the Giants, and then you play a direct competitor in the Washington Commanders after this week, where they could potentially lose to the Eagles, and then you get an opportunity to play them, and hopefully, for the Falcons, beat them. It puts you in a great spot. So it's going to be a tough game, but, this is where essentially the season comes down to. And then you play the Carolina Panthers after that as well, which you should beat. It's a good situation, because if it all goes well and they win out, then Michael Penix Jr. looks like the hero of the entire, story. So it's not going to be easy. It's the most important part of the year, and there's also a lot of pressure, obviously, right? Because the Falcons have to win these games. But I definitely didn't see this coming. I was very doubtful of, not only Michael Penix Jr. playing, but, you want to extend it out to everybody, and Bo Nix and Drake May and everything like that. They've looked good, kind of. Well, not Bo Nix so much, but really Drake May kind of easing into it and not really starting him right away. Maybe Michael Penix Jr. does the same thing, and we could see him sort of like Drake May after weeks and months of not playing, step in and look ready to play because he kind of got eased into it rather than just being thrown into it like Caleb Williams or something like that, right? He's got the weapons. He's got Drake London. Darnell Mooney's been playing great. Bijan's obviously huge. And the defense has been playing better to their respect over the last couple weeks. So it's there for Michael Penix, but actually seeing it play out is a different story, I believe. So we'll see how it all plays out on Sunday. Where Kirk stands, I'm sure I'll talk about that a little bit more in the coming days, but for right now, I think it's too new to kind of project anything with Kirk, right? I think it's still too new to kind of give a prediction like that. But it's exciting. It's exciting. I'm very excited to see Michael Penix Jr. play for the first time and see how much of an impact he makes right away. Kind of like the rest or most of the rookie class has done this year. But that is a topic for Sunday and when we return after the Christmas break, because that is the end of the show. And as a reminder to you guys, if you guys didn't join the show earlier, we're not going to have any shows next week for the Christmas break, and then we'll be back the following week on Monday and Friday before we are officially back the following week where we do shows every weekday. So I won't be seeing you guys for like 2 weeks. So for the time being now, thank you guys for joining me on today's show. Please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to the Chip Shot Football Podcast, as well as following the network on all forms of social media. And in the meantime, while you're on Christmas break, go over to the YouTube channels, the Podcast Network channel and the Sports Network channel to catch up on more stuff regarding the Chip Shot Football Podcast with some YouTube shorts, more of the live shows, and individual segment videos as well. And as a final reminder, join me every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time as your host, Manny Maradiaga, where we cover a lot more of the NFL regarding game breakdowns, previews, all the breaking news around the NFL as well. So thank you guys again for joining me. I hope you guys have a great Christmas. Enjoy your time off, hopefully during the holidays, and I'll see you guys next year in 2025 when we get things started again on the show officially.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn ain't that great. I don't wanna go to